On this episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast, Trevor and myself are joined with Evan, Lyle, and Jordan from the St. Louis band Interpersonal. We talk about their band's formation, how they got to know each other, what their musical influences are, and what the plan is for 2024. So thanks for jumping on, and let's open this pit up.
Somebody hit somebody!
Welcome to this episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast. I'm Kyle. We got Trevor here, and then we are joined by a couple pretty special guests. So we have Evan and Lyle from the band Interpersonal. So what's up, guys? How you doing?
How's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, if some of the listeners remember, we broke down in a couple bands that we had discovered, and Interpersonal was one of them, and it really caught our attention and stuff. So we're super excited to have them on and learn more about them. But before we jump into the serious portion of this, what have you guys been up to? I know you've had some like crazy week and work and stuff, but
Pretty good. I mean, I guess, the holidays are coming up, so I've been preparing for that with my family and, obviously spending time with the band, working on our music, working on new tunes. I started work on my basement to finish that. So
I saw that. So are you making like a practice space or what are you doing down there?
So I have a background in audio engineering, so I'm actually building a full-size studio in my basement with both a separate control room and a live room and acoustic paneling and I'm going full tilt on it and just putting it all together. So
Very exciting stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet. And what about you, Lyle?
Well, I am a photographer at a university, so I've spent most of my time, wrangling students, trying to get them to not look entirely offensive in marketing for a school. And then, just like Evan said, preparing for holidays, which has been, simultaneously fun and terrifying and stressful, and working on the music, trying to churn out some really great tunes.
That's awesome. Do you guys just stay local for the holidays? Is it like family all in town or do you guys travel anywhere?
I know on my end, a lot of my family's out of town, but they tend to travel here. We're kind of like the hub. That's one of the nice things about being in the Midwest is it's kind of the easiest place for most people to get to, right here in the middle. But yeah, that's me.
Nice.
Yeah. We're taking it easy. We're at my house this year, and I think just my wife's dad's coming over, and even then he isn't totally committed yet, so we're gonna have the kids, open presents, easy day off. So
It's
so
good
do you
time.
guys settle a debate on Christmas music for us? You like it or not?
yeah.
Oh man, it's
There
a
we
bit
go.
of an internal debate too, isn't it? Like I don't know, like some of it's good and some of it's not. I think it's. I guess I would lean more towards I like it. I think that it's fun to be a little festive. I don't want to hear it in like March, but December 1st to 25th, play it all you want. I'm having a good time with it.
So you're a December 1st guy then? No, nothing in November?
I'm not a November guy. I can't do
November,
it. That's
okay.
just too much.
No,
Man,
Give
I
me that
gotta
one
celebrate.
extra week. Like you can
I
wait
gotta
for
celebrate
1
my
week.
gluttony first. So I like my
You guys
food.
are-
I like my turkey. I wanna eat first before I start doing Christmas music. And I'm kind of weird on the whole Christmas music thing because before I got married and had kids, I was completely against it. I couldn't stand it. It just bothered me. I don't know why. I know it's a Grinchy answer, but I think it's because when I was in high school, they started playing Christmas music like in early October, and then it was just round the clock, same 5 songs over and over again, like at the grocery store that I worked at. And then something flipped when I got married, and now I like went out and bought like Frank Sinatra Christmas vinyl. And
Nice.
I love
Good
playing it, and
stuff.
like I'm just all giddy about it. I sing along with the songs on the radio. It's horrible.
That's the really good stuff. I think everyone can agree that like the
Yeah, like Bing
Sinatra, Bing
Crosby.
Crosby, that's where the good
Heck
shit
yeah.
is.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Nat King Cole.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we did a Christmas episode and my wife, she's like, if you guys don't mention Bing Crosby or Nat King Cole, like I'm gonna be so upset. I made sure I specifically said My
Yeah.
wife is a big fan of Bing Crosby, Nat King Cole, like all of that stuff. So we made sure
See,
to get it called out.
I'm a Halloween, like October 31st ends and Christmas decorations go up November 1st. And then we're playing Christmas music the whole time. So
I can't get behind it. No
Yeah.
disrespect,
No,
live
man.
your life, but I can't. That's just too much for me.
Yeah. Well, and I got to celebrate Thanksgiving, man. I love my food. I love that my gluttony, man. I
that is
want to stuff
true.
my face. Like that's what it's all about for me. So I get
I've
excited for
always
that one.
said that Thanksgiving is the most American holiday there is. Like even more than 4th of July. Thanksgiving, like you overeat, you watch football, and you sleep, and it's like that's the definition of American. So
I
That sounds
think
like
we
a
need to
good day to
put
me.
more work into like Thanksgiving celebration. Like we need more Thanksgiving movies, more Thanksgiving music. Can we like
true.
somehow raise Frank Sinatra from the grave and get a Frank Sinatra Thanksgiving album? That's what I really want.
There we go. How about some interpersonal Thanksgiving
There
music?
you
That's
go.
what we need. There
You
we
guys
go.
drop the Thanksgiving
There we
album next
go.
year. All right.
That's right.
Lyle,
That's
we
a
need
good
to hop
idea.
right on that, dude.
We'll get right on it.
That's
Yeah.
cool. So are you guys then doing anything band related the next month or so? Or you kind of just are any shows, anything like that in December? Or are you just kind of playing it cool?
We're
Lyle, you got
kind
this.
of yeah, we're kind of laying low while we write the record. We really want to put everything we have into it. We don't want to, obviously like playing shows is our bread and butter. It's what we love the most, but we don't want to distract ourselves and make the end result
Yeah.
worse for it. So we want to kind of put our focus on that. So but we are keeping up with that. Obviously, like Jordan's out of town right now. There's holidays coming up, all kinds of stuff. So we're not doing as much as we normally do, but we're still making sure that anytime we can, we're getting together and writing and working on the new record.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yep. We've got I'd say what is it, Lyle? Is it like 10 like scratched out demos, rough demos,
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
something like that.
sounds about right.
We're and kind of the conversation over the last week has kind of been like, all right, we like most of what is in those. But we want to like, there's a few of them where we're like, okay, we're not totally happy with this, so let's workshop some of these. And so I think the plan is that moving forward, we're going to sit down with like a computer and kind of like discuss it, and then scratch track out, guitar and bass. Lyle will, he's able to scratch track out some vocals, and then Aaron will sit down and he'll write his parts over the next couple of weeks after that, because Aaron is, as the drummer goes, he's like incredibly particular. Like he knows hit for hit what he does in every song. Like, and he doesn't want to go to the studio until he absolutely knows every single last hit memorized. So he'll want to nail that down to a T for sure.
So, in your guys' writing process, is it something where you guys are going to focus in on these 10, maybe get up to like 12 or 13 songs? Or are you guys hoping to like get to like 20 and narrow it down? Because this is something we've talked about with some bands who will like pump out like 30 songs and then they'll end with like a 12-song album.
I'm pretty new to the band, so
Sure.
I think that there's an adjustment period there where we're kind of figuring out how with the new lineup that kind of works out. I don't know how we've done it in the past, before I hooked in, but I know that as at least as of right now, we have been really focusing on the songs that we've got some like solid demos for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess it kind of just comes down to how long do we want to work on this record and kind of what do we want it to be, which like Evan said is something we're really fleshing out right now. We want to make sure that we've got these down, and then I think where we go from there kind of comes out of how do we feel about those once they're done.
Yeah. Before, what happened, the way we used to do it was, so we actually started out as a 4-piece way back when, and before we had Jordan, and I would typically write the guitar part. I would come to the band with that, and Chris would learn it, Aaron would learn it, and then because of our unique history with singers, whoever the singer was at the time would write their parts. Wow, you're smiling over
Sure.
there. and so, and that's kind of, it didn't usually go through much of a revision process or an edit process. It kind of usually stuck the way it was, just because I think that's just the way things happened. There was no particular rhyme or reason for that. But now we're like, I know Jordan is he's a much needed element and a very large, great element to the band that was added a little over a year ago, I'd say. And he has been highly instrumental in seeking out the best rather than settling for the initial draft, which is something I'm guilty of in the past. Is I would write something and be like, okay, cool, but he's like, nah, I think we can make it better if we do this way. Or what if we tried this? And then like, the more he's done that to the band is I feel like he's just drawing out better and better stuff from us. And I'm really enjoying every time he does that. So he's just wildly smart with music and creative. He's really skilled at guitar. So yeah, he's a blessing to have in the band for sure. And Lyle's been in a band with him actually in the past. And I've listened to the music they put together before, and I know that they have their own little magic too. Like, so I'm really excited to see what happens next.
Nice. I'm not gonna
So,
lie, I actually had it pulled up right before we jumped on here. So I got some Traveler in. I
Oh
listened to you
wow,
guys. There we go.
that's from the past. Okay.
We got it. So
That's way
all
cool.
right, right on.
So how did you guys all meet? Did you know each other for a while? Or I know Lyle, you're kind of newer, but it seems like you've at least known the guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, I only knew Jordan before this. Like you said, me and Jordan were in Traveler back, from when we were in high school all the way up to 2017 when I moved away to Chicago to go to college and work in film for a little bit. So I missed out on a fair chunk of the St. Louis scene, which has evolved a lot since I left. And I wasn't super familiar with the guys until Jordan hit me up one day. Was like, "Hey, we need someone to fill in for vocals for this show." And when I met everyone, like I felt like I was at home. Like everyone's super friendly. They made me feel really welcome. I think that they're doing really great stuff. So I was really really excited once they asked me to kind of sign on full time.
What about you? What about you, Evan, and I guess the rest of the guys?
So I knew Aaron. Actually, Aaron was the drummer in my band before Interpersonal. So Aaron was the first person that I knew. We were in a band together called Treading Oceans, which was a lot like if you listen to like Movements or something like that.
Yeah.
Or yeah, like I guess that'd be a good example. And that band was crumbling due to personnel issues. There was just a lot of disagreement. I knew I wanted to keep playing music. We had lost our bass player already at that time, and Aaron and I knew we wanted to continue playing together. So we continued playing together, and right before Treading Oceans broke up, we auditioned a bass player, and his name was Chris. So that's Chris who plays in Interpersonal now. So he actually came to what started out as an audition for Treading Oceans and quickly turned into Interpersonal, like next practice.
Cool.
It was wild.
nice.
And so it became me, Chris, and Aaron. And then our first singer was a guy named Mike. And Mike is a wildly talented vocalist, up and down. And he's the one you hear on that self-titled record. He still plays music to this day. He left the band for, if I remember correctly, it was a COVID-related reason. So, but if you check out a band called Mind Clot from here in St. Louis, he's actually the singer. It's like beatdown hardcore or something like that. It's good. It's
Oh,
good stuff.
sick.
Yeah, he's screaming for them, and it's good stuff. So
Nice.
so
So with you guys then starting with you, Aaron, and Chris, then how did you guys decide what style of music you wanted to play or what direction you wanted to go with everything? If you were like Movements before, why towards the pop punk scene?
Um, so when having been, I said that like I would write a lot of the demos and then it kind of spread to everyone else. Like a lot of my heavy influences at the time and kind of still at the moment. But I'm kind of going through a transition phase on that one. So I don't know. I'm a little weird now, but I would listen to a lot of Knuckle Puck, a lot of Story So Far. Um, I was going through a brief like Blink and like New Blink, which is weird. But like Newfound Glory. There's a lot of different like pop punk stuff I was going through at the time. I was going through listening to Youth and Magnolia, so Citizen and Turnover. I was a huge Real Friends fan for a while,
Yeah.
so those were kind of taking over a little bit. It was funny because I got really into movements as Trading Oceans started, and they're kind of like a lot of single string work, like single string picking work. And then I kind of faded out of that as fast as I got into it. So uh, Trading Oceans was actually starting to take a harder turn, and that's kind of where interpersonal picked up. So
Cool.
Nice.
Is it like super hard to decide what kind of music you want to play? Being like a big music fan, right? You listen to all this different style of music, and you're just like, I don't know what I want to do.
so and I guess for me it's funny because I told you I mentioned that I have recording stuff and I like to record music. So I'm sitting actually kind of in what is now my studio and looking around. I can see my 5-string bass, my 7-string guitar. I see another guitar over there. There's my acoustic and my keyboard. And so like you, I don't know. Sometimes it's hard because I'll be like, dude, I really want to write something like Neon Glow by Dayseeker. And like, cause I love Dayseeker. I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan. That, or I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sit down and learn Snowblood by Era. And I'm just like, man, I don't even know if I can reach that tuning, even with the 7-string. And I don't know. Right now, I'm going through a huge Spirit Box phase too. Like, I don't know. Coordinating the plan is right on there for me. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know. It's really hard, but I think because pop punk also holds this nostalgic grip on my heart that I always get into way more than everything else. And so like I think right now the vibes that I get from the bands like Basement, Title Fight, Citizen. I know Lyle likes Turnover, like just like I do. I'm the guys that recently finally turned me, and I'm gonna catch some flack for this one. I finally got into Daisy. I hated it for so long by Brand New. It just wasn't my thing.
Okay.
And then now, yeah. See, Lyle's like, thank God.
Good, good. That's the
But
right. That's the
if you
right
ask,
opinion. So
yeah, if you ask any of the other band members, they're all going to be like, "Well, it's about fucking time." And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been getting way more into that. So, like, I don't know. That's where I was saying, like, I'm going through this transitional phase on like what my influences are, and I'm like, I don't know. I've always been like a right major key stuff, and
Yeah.
so yeah. I don't know. It's just kind of what is really exciting at the time, and kind of trips my trigger. Lyle, do you have anything to add to that? I feel like I'm.
Yeah. Lyle, what are you going to pull influence from, right? Because now you're a new band. You're the new guy coming in, right? You're going to want
yeah,
to put your stamp on it somewhat.
it's Well, I mean, just for the initial question, it was very easy for me to decide to write pop punk music because that's what the band was already writing when I came on. So that decision was made for me. But as far as influences go, I mean, I actually have been on a bit of a journey of rediscovery in pop punk. I've been revisiting some of the stuff. I know that Evan and I bonded over one practice because we were both really big fans of Cartel. And I hadn't listened to Cartel in years.
Oh,
Evan's like,
so
"Hey, have you heard of Chroma from Cartel?" And next thing you know, like the next month, I didn't listen to anything else. So if only by default, Cartel is going to be a big influence for me. But yeah, like Evan
Nice.
said, I think if there's one band that's really kind of uniting all 5 of us right now, it's Turnover. I've
Mhm.
heard a lot of Turnover kind of sink their teeth, into what we've been writing, but as far as personally, I've always been more of it's weird because pop punk in itself as a subgenre has kind of split off into so many other ones. I've always been more along the lines of less like Citizen and Knuckle Puck and all that kind of stuff. I'm more of a like a Fallout Boy. I really like
Oh yeah,
Say
that's
Anything. And not to say that like no one else does, but
Right.
that's probably more where I'm drawing from. I'm typically more in line with that kind of more melodic type stuff. And I think that's if there's been one major difference that I'm bringing, it's that I think that the vocals that I've been writing are at least a little bit more melodic than the more rhythmic stuff that I feel like the last 2 singers have been writing.
Okay. So with Fallout Boy, are you pulling from like old Fallout Boy or like anthem rock Fallout Boy?
Um, Old as in pre breakup. I'm not a huge post breakup Fall Out Boy fan, but I do actually tend to prefer the later stuff in the pre breakup era. Like I really like
Okay.
Infinity on High. I like Falia Do a lot. But I mean, like, come on, like Saturday, Grand Theft Autumn. I'm not. I'm still a big fan of that early stuff.
Absolutely. Sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's,
with go ahead.
oh no, I was just reminiscing because Lyle's bringing up like Saturday and that era of Fall Out Boy, and all I can think of is like listening to "Take This to Your Grave" over and over and over again because
Yep.
that album is no skips for me, not one.
Absolutely.
100%.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
And
Go on.
no, that was actually leading into my question that I was going to ask. Is just like for me, my like formative years for music was probably like 2002 through like 2005 ish. Like that's where I really started to develop who I was listening to, the style of music I was getting into. So when you say take this to your grave, absolutely on repeat for me, kind of thing. Had Newfound Glory, Sticks and Stones.
Yeah.
Um, if we're starting to go into the emo realm of things, I had Senses Fell. Let It Enfold You was massive for me, kind of. What are those years, or like, what is that time period where you're starting to form what you're really into and enjoying?
Yeah, I'll let you go first, Evan.
You sure? No, I've been talking. You go for it first, buddy.
Uh, when I think of like the formation of my music taste, the two big ones were, and for the same reason, when I was in fourth grade, it was 2008. The financial crisis hit us pretty hard, so we moved in with my uncle. So my family didn't have a lot of money, but we lived with him in a pretty rich neighborhood. I go to a new school in fourth grade. Everyone's got the iPod Nano. It's brand new, hot off the press, crazy. I'm like, Mom, Dad, I've got to have a fucking iPod Nano. Everyone's making fun of me because I don't have an iPod Nano. Please get me one. They're like, we cannot afford an iPod Nano. Here's this weird thing we got at Walmart that can record the radio, like a digital tape deck, right? But I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I was like, you know what? This is fine. I can put my headphones in. It's in my pocket. They don't have to know it's not an iPod. So I start listening to this radio recorder, and two songs kind of at the same time were on the radio, and it was Sugar We're Going Down and American Idiot. Those two songs were the only two songs that could fit on this like 2 megabyte radio recorder. And I listened to them on repeat until someone finally was like, those are like real songs. Like you can go listen elsewhere to more of that. And it was this whole like I don't my family was never super musical up to that point. So all I ever knew of was the radio. Like the idea that like, oh, like you can find a band and discover their entire discography never even occurred to me until I listened to these two albums. And then next thing you know, like Fall Out Boy, Blink 182, Green Day, Census Fail, like you said. I started getting into kind of the like a little bit heavier, like A Day to Remember. I was a big Bullet for My Valentine kind of guy back in the
Heck
day.
yeah. The Poison was awesome.
But it all started with that little like radio recorder. And if it weren't for those two singles being on the radio at the same time, I don't know if I would have like stopped. Like I probably would be like I don't even know who's popular. Like, is Jason Derulo still a thing? Does he still exist? I don't know.
Jason Derulo is always a thing, but
You know what?
for
Good
better or
for
for
him.
worse.
Longevity. I can't take that away from him.
What about you, Evan?
So music that for my formative years. So I'd say the one that stands out to me the fastest is The Used. That the self-titled came out in 2001, and I don't know how long that CD was stuck in my CD player in my car. Couldn't I mean, but it was a really long time. I do know that I was into like a lot of like what was it? There was a lot of rock music that I was listening to. Like my buddy at first like had gotten me into Green Day, like older stuff. Like this was I think around the time the International Super Hits had come out, and I was just listening to that. And he kind of gave me a couple of other ones. Like I know Lit was there, Mest, Homegrown. If anybody's familiar with any of those,
Yeah.
and then I discovered that one day I was riding with a friend home and he put this band in and I was like, and they started playing and all of a sudden they started screaming. I was like, whoa, people do this in music? And it was, and for anybody who remembers it, it was the After Dinner Payback by From Autumn to Ashes.
Oh,
Like,
heck yeah.
like
That
that album is such an underrated album. That album was so good and that band is really good. And I was just like, I don't know, it seemed like they left as fast as they came, and I was just bummed out about that. And now I really want to go back and listen to that record. And then I discovered Under Oath, and it was game over for me because I fell so deep down like the emo, post-hardcore, screamo, metal rabbit hole. I don't know what to have done with myself, because I met another friend my senior year of high school who had so many albums in his like large, CD wallet, the one that holds like 100 CDs, which of course was a level of status, when
Sure.
you're a music nerd like we are. And so, but it's funny, I was listening to your guys' podcast, and you guys actually named one in there, and I hadn't heard it in forever, and suddenly I got a lot of nostalgia come back to me. But Hidden in Plain View was actually in that one. So I was like, man, I remember listening to Hidden in Plain View. The Instant Ones was my jam, dude. It was so good. Like,
Heck
I
yeah.
didn't know a lot of it. I couldn't recall a lot of it now if I tried, but I do remember that song was my jam. I mean, he had that. He had May, a thorn for every heart, Hawthorne Heights. Like, I mean, like we were just like all over like talking about music, and then there was like a lot of great local music for us at the time, so we went and saw a lot of stuff. We would go out of town and see local bands, and so yeah, like somewhere between 2005 and 2007 were like these massive years of just straight music like addiction for me.
Yeah.
So
You're like you're reliving our childhood.
You're speaking our
Basically.
language.
That
I mean,
was us.
I think that me and Trevor might be a few years earlier with a lot of that, but I got really fortunate because I had an older brother that, he was into like Fear Before the March of Flames and Poison the Well, and and then on
I
the
remember
punk
Poison the
side, like
Well.
Bad Religion and all that stuff. So I had a really lucky, like, hand me down stuff. I used to go in and steal my brother's CDs all the time, and then he'd beat me up because he'd realize they're gone. But
I'd steal my
yeah,
brother's versions of what is it, Messengers, and not Speech Impediment, Thrill Seeker, August Burns Red.
okay,
His
Oh
yeah.
copies
yeah.
of those,
Mm.
because I
Oh,
loved
dude,
August.
Thrill Seeker was so good.
Dude, that and Messengers, I think, are my two favorites. Constellations actually might be one of my favorite. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, what was
Awesome.
it? The other guy on our pod, that his name's Josh. He makes a good point that like if August Burn Red only played, what was it? God, now I forgot those two song names. So never mind. We're gonna cut that out.
Wait, what?
Hell yeah, dude.
That's gonna bug me.
There's two songs that our other host talks about all the time that he's
But
like
it's
they
from
could just
Mariana's Trench and Whitewashed.
Yep.
If August
Yeah.
Burns Red only
The
played
two
those
I was
two
gonna
songs
guess.
forever, I'd be told like it's fine. Holy cow, those
Those are
songs are
two
good.
great songs.
Okay, well, you just mentioned traveling around for shows. Tell us about the St. Louis scene. Like we've said it so many times, all we know is the Utah scene. I'm curious at like what did you guys grow up with? Were you guys growing up in the heavier music? Were you growing up in the post-hardcore or the pop punk? Like what was coming through and what were you guys seeing?
So I moved to St. Louis in 2010. I actually grew up in Kansas City.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but because I went to college here, and then I stayed out here. And right after I finished college, I joined a band, which was a lot like a Day to Remember style band, or a 4 Year Strong style band. And what was really popular, I noticed, was a lot of like pop punk, like what's a good example? Lyle, do you remember anything from like the 2010, 2011 era? Because I can think of like Labella Charade. I can think of Get At Me. I
Yeah.
can think of The Former Me, Equal Squeeze, Make the Years Last,
Yeah.
Center Point.
I mean, you just named all the ones I was gonna name, so now I feel dumb because I don't have any left.
Do
I
it
mean,
over it.
if there's one, I feel like the one, like the fucking heroes of the St. Louis music scene forever, to me at least, have been a Lobby Boxer. Like they're
Mm.
still around, they're still kicking,
Mhm.
they're so good, and like ever since I've been playing music on the scene, Lobby Boxer has been like the kingmaker. Like you're doing really well once you finally get to play a show with Lobby Boxer.
Or another one I can think of is Fivefold.
Oh
Fivefold is a
yeah,
huge band here. Like they shoot, they headlined. Did they? I think they headlined the Pageant, which is like our big venue. Like Bring Me the Horizon played there when they dropped. That's the Spirit, um, which is
Nice.
just to give you kind of a frame of reference. But yeah, they're a big band. They also played alongside, and not in like an opening sense, but like they played alongside Story of the Year for their when they dropped what is it, Wolves, that album.
Yeah.
Um, and that was a really good album. They're still around, but in kind of a diminished capacity. They've had some really rough goes because they had one of their guitarists pass away from cancer, and yeah, they've had a rough go at it, but they've been pretty resilient too. So it's really
Nice.
good. It's really good. It's like 30 Seconds to Mars kind of rock, just like straight rock that you enjoy. You know.
Cool.
Um,
So is the scene like pretty diverse, or because in Salt Lake, like it felt like growing up we had a really weird spurt of like, I don't even know what you would call these. It's not like very melodic post hardcore, but they don't really scream, kind of emo bands. Maybe that started with the Used because the Used is from Salt Lake, but we had a really good run with that. But then it ended up like there's some really good just traditional hardcore that comes out of Salt Lake.
yeah, no, I'd say there's a lot of decent diversity. Unfortunately, I'm not as cultured as I wish I were. Like as far as like the kind of music that I go out and see. Also, having a family and kids is kind of tough to do. But
Yeah,
like the bands that we've played with, I've seen like tons of diversity. As far as like whether you have kind of the Midwest emo feel where you've got stuff like modern bass that's similar to modern baseball or music like that, or we've also played with bands that just kind of have that straight pop punk vibe, like Old Starting Line or something like that, which I absolutely love that
yeah,
too. And it's really cool because actually our bass player Chris also plays in a hardcore band, so I've kind of started to vicariously through him experience the hardcore scene, which I've never really been a part of, just because that's never been kind of the scene I've gone into it much
yeah.
of. But his band's really good. They're called Maladjust, and I've kind of started to hear some of the other bands through that, and it's really cool because it looks like they have a lot of diverse or a lot of bands going through them, and it's pretty lively. So yeah, it seems like there's a lot going on with the scene. I think the difficult part is that there aren't, and Lyle, correct me if I'm wrong, but there aren't a large amount of venues to play right now.
That's the
COVID,
biggest the
yeah,
biggest
COVID
change that
killed
I
them.
noticed, because like I said,
Mhm.
when I moved away in 2017, obviously that was pre-pandemic, and like the big ones were always Pops, Ready Room, Firebird was huge. At least the ones that I was playing, the ones that I was seeing shows at, and I don't know if
Cicero's.
any of the Ciceros. Oh my god,
Oh, I
like,
miss Cicero's every day of my life.
and it like at least half of those are closed now. Like all the
Mhm.
places we've played, all the places that I've gone and seen people are places that I'd never been before I left. I don't even know if they existed. They might be brand new for all I know. But I think that did have an effect on the scene too. If any, I remember the scene being a lot bigger back in the day.
Yeah, I'll
Personally,
agree with
like
that.
I think that the lack of venues made it so that like it's just harder to sustain an
Hmm.
active band if there's nowhere to play, if everywhere's booked up all the time. But
Yeah.
as far as the last question goes, I agree. I think that the St. Louis scene's surprisingly diverse, because I don't attend a whole lot of the other kind of genres, but I know that we have an active kind of country scene. I know we have an active like EDM scene.
Oh,
Hardcore's pretty huge. Like metal and kind of like goth rock stuff is really huge. Jordan used to be in a band called the Cult Sounds that's really big. There's Arcangela. I know that they're still doing numbers pretty well, but the issue I would say is that it's like somewhat segregated almost. Like it's pretty rare, I think, that someone in one scene really gets to be a part of or gets to know another scene pretty well. I feel like a lot of people kind of stick to the scene they're in, and I do wish that there was a little bit more overlap sometimes.
That's interesting. That's an interesting point because, I mean, growing up, we always talk about the issues there were with like mixed bill shows, but have felt like on a larger scale that we're seeing that kind of meld away a little bit.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
think especially in the pop punk scene, because bands like No Pressure or Koyo that come from the hardcore scene and then go play like traditional hardcore festivals, like Anxious does that. I think Drain is on a Neck Deep tour next year, so I think we might see a little bit of that crossover and stuff, and we'll
Yeah.
see how that plays out because there were issues back in the day with that. So,
Yeah.
but
I can
We've
remember
all
seeing the used with Killswitch Engage back in 2008. That was like Taste of Chaos tour, I think. That was I don't.
oh
I
yeah,
just remember that's a crossover right there. Is one of the ones I thought of.
Yeah,
yeah,
no, that's what we always had too. And we've always said Utah was weird because we had such a straight edge scene when we were growing up that the hardcore kids would make fun of the metal kids coming to shows. So forever it was Salt Lake doesn't circle pit. Like when like metal bands would come and they were playing fast and they'd be like circle circle, all the hardcore kids would go stand in the middle of the pit with their arms crossed kind of thing. So it was like a weird dynamic and it's actually changing. Like I went and saw Dying Fetus with the Acacia strain a couple months ago
Mhm.
and Salt Lake was circle pitting. And I was like, man, I haven't seen a circle pit in Salt Lake in years. So it's interesting, but I do think that it's changing a little bit and hopefully it's starting to come together and meld a little bit more. And, we'll have to see where it goes from there.
So how much was Story of the Year like an influence to bands in St. Louis? Because they're from St. Louis, right?
They are from St. Louis, yeah. So Dan Marsala, the lead singer, actually heavily. I think you'd be surprised about how much he actually involves himself in the local scene. Um, I, I mean, Lyle, you remember the former me, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So that's a band that's just a local band. I mean, my old band, Home and Away, would play with them like all the time. Dan Marsala like hangs out and drinks with those guys now, like just as
Oh,
buddies.
sweet.
Like it's not, I don't know, and it's really just not a thing to them. And like I think he'll show up to their shows and he'll sing on stage because I know that they play in like an emo cover band, and so whenever sometimes when they do something off Page Avenue, like he'll go up there and like guest sing for it, and he's just like doing it because he loves it. And
That's tight.
uh, so he's very heavily involved, and then he's also in a smaller, just straight punk band. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but he's in a punk band called the Fuck Off and Dies, and they're around here. And then the other thing that he does that is just straight involves him is he actually, I don't know if this is his other job other than Story of the Year, but he is an audio engineer at the studio we record at. So he's not our engineer, but he is one of the other engineers at that studio. So he indirectly involves himself that way too. So yeah, he's
That's
he's.
awesome.
I don't know about the other guys. I don't know much. I've met Adam once. I I don't know much about that. I don't know. I don't think Greek Fire is heavily involved around here very much in the local scenes, anyways. But I don't know. Lyle, do you have anything else to add as far as all that goes?
Just to say that, like, so when I, first started playing shows, there was this guy Dan that everyone seemed to know, and it was only after I'd met him and like he hung out with Jordan and shit that he was like, oh, Dan Marsala from Story, like, and it's like, what the fuck? it's 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 very cool to see that level of engagement from a band that's as big as they are
Yeah.
playing with
Mhm.
you know
Like you talk about like meeting some of these band members that you're like, oh yeah, they were real cool, they were real down to earth, whatever. But no, like, I mean, it Dan sets the bar, like, for sure. I mean, to watch him just be involved with these other bands and like, to the level and degree he is, it's very impressive to me, and I think it has stood out to me like to a pretty large degree. So
Yeah.
yep.
I mean that's cool, and it honestly sets a pretty cool precedence for the St. Louis scene, And you keep bringing up the Used, like they're a great band. but those guys are kind of dicks. And they were like never they talk so much crap on Utah and the Utah scene, honestly. Like I remember one year they came, I can't remember who they were playing with, but they were just talking mad crap on stage and people were like getting pretty pissed off about it. So
Yeah.
Like
but
all of them.
I know Bert for sure. I actually worked with Bert's brother, and even Bert's brother was like, "No, he's a dick." So,
I worked with Bert.
no, well,
For
I take all that back. So never mind, man.
I worked with
Yeah,
Bert for I think it was about 6 weeks is how long I worked with him. So remember I said I'm also an audio engineer.
Yeah.
So I had to do an internship, for my audio engineering. Well, my internship was I got it through a guy I went to high school with, ironically the same guy who showed me From Autumn to Ashes that I mentioned in that story earlier. Well, he through like a school class recorded this band. It was a small local band at the time. They were called the Josephine Love Letter, and then they switched their name to Josephine Collective. And then they were getting big to the point where John Feldman brought them to California and started actually signing them. And they broke up during the recording process, which is unfortunate. They're actually very talented, or were talented, I guess. But he stayed there, the guy, and he was an engineer for John Feldman, who produces The Used. So he got me the internship out there, and I happened to intern during The Used making Vulnerable. So
Oh,
I
sick.
actually spent six
that is
weeks
cool.
with them while they worked on Vulnerable. So I hung out with Quinn, Jeff. It would have been Dan at the time. And I didn't see much of Dan, to be honest with you, but I did see Bird a lot because part of my job, being an intern, because I didn't have a whole lot of say on that record, or any say, I guess, but like I didn't have a whole lot of influence on anything there other than just helping out, but was to pick Bird up from his house and then bring him to the studio and then take him home also. So that was a lot of my job. So I actually got a whole bunch of like one-on-one time in the car with
Yeah.
Bird. And dude's very smart, actually. Like he was talking about like the books he was reading. He actually kind of enlightened me on like some of the songs and like what they were about. He told me this, and I guess there's always the possibility that he was fucking with me, which whatever. But he told me that the song "All That I've Got" was about how his dog died in Australia, and I always thought that was the most out there thing. Now I don't know if it's true again. Like he could have just been messing with 20-year-old me, whatever. But it was yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just had a different experience. I'm not
Sure.
trying to say
And
he
look,
is or isn't a dick, but I just thought it was
if
an interesting thing.
if Bert's listening to this, my name is Trevor, and look, I mean, I only know from the experiences I had seeing him. I never got to spend time with him. I'm sure he's fine, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, that's just stuff
And
that you hear
honestly,
through the grapevine of people from Utah that knew him, but who knows, right? I mean, people could have
Yeah.
just been jealous or whatever. So
also,
Yeah.
we're talking about the early 2000s and stuff, and people change all the time, but they were
Sure.
honestly like a local band for us before we were really involved in the scene. Like they were big by the time that we were going to shows and doing things. Because when did that album come out? 2002, 2003,
2001.
maybe
The
one.
self-titled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So they were already past what we were doing at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
dude, that's awesome. So you worked at John Feldman's studio. So did you get to like hang out with Feldman as well? Because he's
Yeah.
pretty dope.
Oh, he's amazing. That guy is so wildly talented and such a great guy. He was so kind. Oh no. Oh, all right. Well, it was good talking to you
There he
guys. We're taking
hey,
is.
off.
we're getting
There
Zoom
he
bombed.
is.
Sorry, guys.
No,
But
all
yeah,
good.
I
yeah,
got caught in
he's
Temecula Valley, so I had no internet at all.
We've been talking trash on you for about 45
Yeah,
minutes.
you should have
yeah,
heard the stuff that they said.
It's actually a
yeah.
I
huge
can't
bummer
wait.
that you're here now.
I
It
can't
was
wait to
mostly
hear it.
about
I'm
his
sure it'll be
receding
great.
hairline.
Well, yeah. At least I'm not fully bald like you, buddy.
Hey, I'm
Hey,
proud of it. And you're
I,
insulting Kyle.
exactly. I might have lost my hair before Evan did because you said what 23. It was like 20 years old and I was already losing it. So I always tell people that I had a harder time accepting that my parents were getting divorced than I did accepting I was going bald. It hurts.
I don't know which one I'd have a harder time with.
Yeah, it's a piece of you that's going away, you know. So yeah,
Well,
That's
before we got Zoom bombed, Evan, you said Feldman was a pretty dope dude.
Yeah, very,
Who?
very. I think one of the coolest things I noticed about him is like, he was when he was set to do something, he like was like, I'm gonna do this. Like he was driven. He was like, I'm gonna go. I'm doing this, and he moved very fast. He spoke very quickly, and he's just like, I mean, it wasn't. There was no dilly dally. There was no lollygagging. It was just like, all right, next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing. And you could tell his priorities were straight and everything because he has a family and everything, and like he's sober. That's like he's serious about that. Like he doesn't fuck around with that either. And like it's I don't know. It was very admirable like how he handled so much in his life to me, and like he just was I don't know. It was really again it was a blessing to be like in that position, and I learned a lot from him. So yeah, it was a good time.
this guy produced Hillary Duff, so
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
he knows what he's doing.
Kingmaker right there.
And Ashley
Yeah.
Simpson.
And Ashley Simpson.
Yep.
Jordan, I think somehow you ended up on mute.
Bye, Jordan.
Who are we talking about?
But,
John Feldman.
All right. Well, I got opinions.
but no, awesome. Well, hey Jordan, well welcome. The other
what's up?
guitarist for Interpersonal. Appreciate
Yep.
you taking your time from Temecula Valley in California. So
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. No, thank you guys for talking about us and wanting to talk to us.
So
We could have all
Yeah.
done this in
talking about
California, you
Jordan.
know. So
I was talking about you, Jordan. I was actually singing your praises earlier.
Oh, were you?
Don't
I
tell
was.
him. He's gonna get a big head about it. He's gonna try taking over the band, and we're all gonna be bowing down to him because he can do it. So
well, let's
No, guys, this is how the song goes.
let's jump in here. So they were mentioning that you guys met, or at least you joined the band about a year ago. So what brought you to Interpersonal, and how has that relationship been over the last year? And feel free, I can mute these guys, so you just talk crap if you want.
Yeah, these motherfuckers will talk over me. No. So I knew Evan prior because Lyle and I were in a band from 2014 to 2017, I think, right around that, called Traveler. And at the time, he was in a band called Treading Oceans, and we had passing like admiration of each other's music and stuff like that. At the time that I saw Interpersonal saying like, "Hey, we're looking for another guitar player, someone else to come in and help write and fill out songs and stuff like that." Um, the band I was currently in was a goth rock band called The Cult Sounds, was wrapping up. And I shot Evan a message and I said, "Hey, look, The Cult Sounds is about to break up. Um, Aaron, our drummer, and Chris, our bass player, both played in The Cult Sounds for a brief period of time, at least in a live capacity. And Chris wrote some music with us." And I was like, so they can definitely vouch for I'm not a total jerk, and we can work together and stuff like that. So like, what do you need me to do to like send you anything? Like, what do you want to hear? What's the gig? And Evan was like, I'm actually kind of excited that you messaged me because I like Traveler a lot. So can you prepare some songs, write some leads? I think the first thing I did was I wrote leads to a demo called Say, which actually I think at the time was called Aqua 2. I think that was the name of the demo. It was Aqua 2. So I laughed and I was like, okay, that's funny. I'm in. And I wrote to that. And then I think the first proper thing I did was I wrote parts to One Morning and Pavement, I think. And then I came to practice. We played those things. Evan and Aaron and Chris walked out of the room, and then I was like, "Well, maybe I didn't do so well." They walked out of the room. I'm pretty sure I fucked this one up, man. And then they walked back, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to be in the band?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm in." I guess I did okay.
a good call because Pavement is a dope song for sure.
That's one of my
So,
favorite ones to
It's a
play.
fun one.
yeah.
Mine
That
too.
and One Morning are my two favorite older songs to play. Those songs are a lot
Yeah.
of fun. But then we just started like working on some new stuff, and then we did the tour, and like in that time period, like I feel like me, Evan, Chris, and Aaron became like such an incredibly tight unit, like more than like other bands that I'd been a part of that were active for quite a while. Like obviously the Cult Sounds was ending, so I was like, it felt like a weird toxic spot then. So it was like, okay, this is so refreshing. This is so much fun, and it's more in line with a lot of the music. Like I love goth music, and AFI is one of my favorite bands. I love My Chem. I love Alkaline Trio. You know, Sisters of Mercy and all that stuff. But hardcore, pop punk, emo, indie rock, that's like my wheelhouse. That's what I grew up on. That's what I wanted me to become a musician. So it was like, okay, this is a great fit. And I think we've just started writing some really killer stuff. And then I cannot tell you, I mean, Lyle joining the band also took things to another level. Obviously,
Hmm.
I've been working with Lyle for a long time. I've known him since he was, what, 13 years old?
God, I'm probably younger than that, man.
Yeah,
I've
we've
known
known
your
each other a long
brother
time.
since 6th grade, so
Yeah.
11. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
I've known Lyle for a long time. So it's like we know how each other right, like he'll know what I'm gonna do, and I'll kind of know what he's gonna do. And there's like always those fun moments where I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know what Lyle's gonna do on this demo when he sends us a vocal thing, and I hope he does do it. But because I'm like, I think I know what he's gonna do, and then he sends it back, and I'm like, yes, he fucking did the thing I was thinking in my head. I was like, I knew he was gonna do
well,
it. It's so awesome. It's so rad. And then it's
well,
just like the new songs are so fucking killer because I think this is just like one of the best bands possible that I've been a part of. It's just so much fun.
Nice.
You heard it
so
here first. Greatest band in the world, Interpersonal.
I feel bad for other bands. I'm just saying, you know.
So actually, I wanted to comment on that because, like, I'm having never worked with Lyle myself. I just heard Jordan say, "Yo, dude, like my old singer wants to, fill in for us." I'm like, "All right, cool, whatever." And then he's like, "Oh, now he wants to. I think he might want to try out and be the actual singer." I was like, "Cool." So then, Lyle starts working with some of the new tunes. Well, Jordan had this neat little clean lick that he played at practice, and I was like, "Hold on, let me add on to that." And so this quickly became a song that we were kind of enjoying. It's like it's very clean, and
It's like a
as
dream
far as the
pop emo
guitars
thing.
go, yeah. So I guess Jordan knows which song I'm referring to.
Yeah.
The thing is, about the time that Lyle was starting to kind of write to stuff and everything, and like experiment with what we were doing to see if he wanted to be in on all this, um, we couldn't come up or agree on a solid ending to this song. Like we were just struggling. We were like, what we've got so far is kind of cool, but it's not really hitting home. And so then Lyle came in and he's like, "Here, do you mind if I try something?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure." So we sent him all the stuff for the demos so that he had all the tracks separate and everything. And he took his guitar and he put some stuff together. And then he had kind of explained it a little bit, but I couldn't get what he was saying until he recorded it and put it
I'm
together.
terrible at explaining things, so that makes total sense.
Nah, dude. I'm terrible at understanding things, so that's
I think
half
I
the
was the
battle.
only one who was kind of on board because me and Lyle have like
You knew what
stared
he
at
was
each other
talking
in
about.
practice spaces before, and he's like, like a dun nothing, and there's many times where I'm like, I have no idea what he's talking about, but in that moment I was like, yeah, okay, I get what you're saying.
So then, so then he goes home. He does that. He makes all the instruments to it, and then he puts vocals to it. So we do have one demo where Lyle sings darn near through the whole thing. He just doesn't have that very ending part because I guess you don't want your mess up with your neighbors. I guess.
Yeah, there's 4 people in what should be a one family house, so it's not conducive to getting super loud.
But anyways, to finish my thought, when I heard what Lyle had put together, first of all, Lyle essentially, oh, he did. He finished the writing of the song to a level where we all were just like, wow, like that's what that song needed. Like he completely finished and put such a high level of like, I don't know, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, but we were all just so excited about that part that he had come up with to finish it off, and it was absolutely what it needed. And then on top of that, the vocals he delivered on top of it were, matched that same bar of excitement. And I was like,
It was
we were like,
chilling the
yes,
first time.
this is right. It
Chilling the
was.
first
The
time we heard
first
it.
time was like, yeah, it was. And now it's like chasing the dragon. You keep listening to it, hoping like, oh man, I keep wanting to listen to it. I keep wanting to listen to it. I've listened to it. I don't know how many times at this point.
It's probably my favorite
Sick.
song of ours now.
I don't know. Personally, I think this Lyle guy's a bit of an asshole. I'm not a fan.
A little pretentious.
It's because your name's Lyle and not Kyle. So I'm just
Oh.
Exactly.
the K makes it
Real
different.
quick, just quick shout out in a bad way to my parents for misspelling Kyle and not fixing it.
They were typing out the birth certificate and hit, it hit an L and not a K.
Exactly. They're just typing and they just mistype. I mean,
Do you?
now here
So,
I am.
like, in all honesty, man, do you get like Lyle crocodile jokes all the time?
It's the only this I get
Still
that
do,
and I
okay.
get Lyle Lovett. They're the only two Lyles anyone knows. And it's like I'm neither of those. Shawn Mendes played Lyle Crocodile. What an insult to my name. I cannot believe that.
oh, that's awesome. So, okay, guys. Well, hey, 2024. So, what's coming up? I know you guys are writing music. You're going to record, but what's kind of the plan for next year?
Plan
Or
seems
is it
to
a
be
secret?
get in the studio once we have everything fully together, which we're getting closer. And then put some singles out, play some shows on them, and then release like a mini LP.
Yep.
Nice. So, what's like timing wise for all that? Are you expecting to have like LP out by like midpoint next year and then start to play some shows, or early next year? What are you guys thinking?
LP
think,
is mid year's.
I think we're, yeah. I think when it comes to timelining it, I would rather make sure it's good. Like it's what we want. I don't want to like rush it. Like we've gotten down to the point of like, I know Jordan and I have had conversations because I know between the 3 stringed instruments, we've all like gone through this phase of revamping our pedal boards and everything where like we've been like kind of overly particular about our new tones and everything. We're like, we want to even be particular about the tones on the album, not just settle for like the first happy guitar tone that we like, you know. And so we're really trying to be particular on what ends up on the records and how it sounds. And so, but yeah, like I would like to have solid music out by, I guess, midpoint next year. That would be ideal. That'd be best case. I'm hoping that we'll be playing shows by spring, but I mean, I know that the plan kind of becomes that with Jordan and in his first capacity of like finally being actually on a record because he joined after Intervisions was finished, and then with the addition of Lyle, like I don't think that we're planning on playing much of the older stuff, and so there's going to be a lot of new sound coming out of it, and it's a little bit in the slower direction, it's a little bit in the heavier direction. It takes a little bit of both sides.
A little darker,
so
a little more textural.
Yeah.
Still energetic.
Yep.
And I would say still in like the vein of like pop punk adjacent. Like there's definitely still some pop punk stuff on it, but more emo.
There's
more
a few
indie
songs
rock
that are very familiar.
Yeah.
But,
Jordan was nice enough to write a song that was 215 beats a minute.
Sorry.
I hate you so much, dude.
Sorry. Dude, you know how much
I say that Aaron's the one who's gonna fucking hate you.
Hey, it's Aaron's fault because he said, "Yeah, I like that song. We have to put it on the record." And I was like, "Do you want to play that song live?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can play it." And I'm like, "Okay." This is the fastest song we have. It's 215 BPM, buddy. He's like, "It's good." And then every time we play it, he's like, "Fuck."
Lyle's like, I really don't want to write to that.
Well, I'll figure something out. I'll pretend it's 107, and I'll just write for 107, and then it'll divide. It's fine.
There you go. Yeah, you just take halftime on the vocals.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Sick. Well, listen, Texas might be closer, but it sucks. So come to Salt Lake when you're coming through.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm just giving Kyle crap.
Yeah,
No, you're
no,
good.
you guys should. Yeah, you should definitely hit up Dallas when you do. Let me know. So
All right.
I'll come get rowdy for you guys.
All right.
I'll
But
take my shirt off or something.
I like
don't know. We'll
that.
see.
I
We'll
want to
see
see
what the night
that.
brings.
I'm holding you to that.
You got a two-step and
I'll do
circle
it with
pit.
you.
I will. I'm out of, like we were talking about earlier. I'm out of Salt Lake City, so I'll circle pit, no problem. I gotta get
Hell
my
yeah.
cardio up a little bit because I'm fat. But, yeah.
Hell yeah.
So,
no.
I know we're kind of running up on the hour, but I just wanted to one last question for you guys, real quick. It's kind of just like a quick lightning, real quick. Best album this year for you guys. What do you have?
I put out a
Mine
list
might
of
be a weird
50.
one because it's
I was like, Jordan,
I saw
Yeah.
yours, Jordan.
yeah, Jordan. We should actually bar Jordan from answering this question because he'll go on. But
Well, let's see if you can do one. Can you do just
yeah,
one?
yeah.
Once and for all, just one. What's the best album this year?
Jordan, go.
My favorite was probably Sangovor by Creeper. They're a UK-based band.
All right.
They started as like kind of a melodic hardcore pop punk band in the vein of old AFI, My Chem, and like Alkaline Trio. And with each
I
record,
remember
they've
Old
done
Creeper.
like a different style. First record was kind of in that vein. Second record was more like there's a lot of like David Bowie glam rock. There was some like Americana, like some Roy Orbison type of stuff. This record is worshiping the writing of Jim Steinman, who wrote Meatloaf's "Bat Out of Hell" and like "Total Eclipse of the Heart" by Bonnie Tyler and stuff like that, while also doing like some Misfits and '80s goth rock. And
Cool.
it's so stupidly over the top and wonderful, and it's probably my favorite record that came out this year. It's a lot of fun.
Sick. Lyle, what do you got?
Mine is "In the End It Always Is" by the Japanese House. That was my favorite.
Oh,
That's a great record. I listened to it on the
Yep.
plane on the way over here, and I'm like, in headphones, it's so good.
Little asterisks, you have to include the acoustic live EP they released alongside it, because I actually think I prefer that. But they kind of one thing, so.
Sick. Evan, what do you got?
All right. So I'm always the last to find the newest music, and I'm always late to it. So I'm going to give you what was new to me. Jordan shoved a lot of new music down my throat this year, and
As he does.
Yes, as he does. And no, I am grateful. I actually
In
appreciate
a good
it.
way, but he definitely does.
Yes. But I'm gonna go with so it's gonna be an older album. It's not gonna be one that came out this year, is what I'm saying. I'm gonna go with Shed by Title Fight.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
That was new to me this year, and it's reshaped. Like I'm saying, it's reshaping my influence a lot. So we like 2 practices ago, I started with a new riff, and I just kind of showed it to Jordan, and he goes, "Dude, no, wait, play that again." And like I was totally like thinking like a Title Fight vibe in my head when I came up with that, and and I was just like, "Yep." That's the kind of stuff I'm starting to get into. So that's kind of been like a key album for me. If I had to pick an album that actually came out this year, I guess it would be Eternal Blue by Spirit Box.
That's awesome. The worst part about you saying Title Fight is that you're discovering them before you got to see them live, or after you were able to see them live, because we've seen them live, and a band that sounds like that should not go as hard as they do. So it's
Especially
wild.
since they changed their sound on every record. Like they started as kind of like the melodic hardcore thing, and then they were like an emo band, and then they were like a shoegaze dream pop band. They were so good, man.
Like it
Way
was
ahead of
it
their
was
time.
insane. It was insane to see people head walk at a shoegaze concert. So
Dude, they're one of the best, man.
Yeah.
Speaking
for
of
sure.
shoegaze bands, shout out to a band that you guys should check out called Portraits and Landscapes.
Really good band.
Two buddies of mine are in that band, and that band is entirely way too stacked with talent. Their bass player is my old bass player. Their singer like lived with me, and he's a close friend. Like ridiculously good,
Cool.
ridiculously good. Portraits and Landscapes.
Yeah, very much like Super Heaven, like stuff like that. Like it's really good.
Yep.
Awesome.
So
We'll check that out. And look, like sometimes when I'm listening to Beatdown, I need a break. So Like, give me these recommendations are very much welcomed because sometimes I need to calm my soul down a little bit. So
Do you want to take another hour and talk about beatdown bands? Because I'm down.
I mean, we could.
We've got to let these guys end their show.
No. We're fine. I was gonna ask Trevor what his was, but I actually think we're gonna talk about it next week. So, but
Well, hey, I'll give you guys a peek. A band that came from a band called Dead and Divine.
Yeah.
There's a new band called Teeth. They're up from Canada. Just some heavy ass deathcore, and it's sick right now. So check out Teeth.
yeah.
Teeth.
All right.
I'm looking them up right now.
Also, get your teeth checked. But
Yeah,
the band
tennis
that
tournament.
Real quick,
my
it
band
turns
was
out
an
it's
easy
really
one.
hard to just Google the word teeth and
Teeth.
get the band.
I gotcha. The album. Sorry, I should have said this too. The album is a biblical worship of violence. So check that out.
Different. Oh yeah.
God's hate
Do you
sick.
like the song "God's Hate" off the album "God's Hate" by God's Hate? Yeah. So my album of the year is "Death Is Nothing to Us" by Fiddlehead. So if you guys haven't checked out Fiddlehead, Evan, that might be right up your alley because it's kind of a title fighty, but very
Okay.
like hardcore adjacenty. It's
Fiddlehead.
really cool.
Listen,
Yeah.
we really appreciate you guys coming on. We found you guys because you followed us on social medias, so we appreciate that as well. And we've said it before, but any band who has a good, solid EP to start off typically does well. All we have is praises for you guys' music. So we expect to see
Yeah.
big things coming out of
And-
Interpersonal.
And like I said in the episode where we talked about you guys listening to that album took me back to like a 10, 11-year-old kid listening to music in the basement with my older brother. Seriously, it's a cool feeling when you get that, right? So it's great music, man. Super pumped for what you guys are coming out with. Lyle, you're a solid dude. We're excited to hear what you got on the next album. So
Hey, we appreciate you guys. We'll let you guys go. So thank you so much. Go check these guys out. You guys want to shout out social medias to like our 10 followers if you guys want? You're welcome to.
Yeah, it's all interpersonal Mo. I think one of them is going to be interpersonal STL. I think that'd be the Twitter, maybe. I'm sorry, X, maybe.
Well, we'll make sure we tag all of it in the post for when we drop this episode. So we'll get
I
you
think
guys
there's a
hooked.
link tree on our Instagram.
Awesome.
okay, yeah, we'll grab all that. We'll make sure it's all included. So
All right, cool.
Okay.
cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thanks
ya.
for having
Thank
us.
Have a good night.
See you guys.